then I'll get you into Instagram. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. And we are joined by, oh my God, can I just say that we've got two new panelists. Now, you would have met Helen from the last couple of weeks, but we're joined by Naomi Holbrook. Hello, my gorgeous one.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So, Naomi, do you want to introduce yourself, please? We always get people who come on first to introduce themselves.
That's very kind, very gracious. Thank you. So my name's Naomi Holbrook. I am known as the unconventional weight loss coach, and I help women to break free from years of restrictive diets and emotional eating and help them to heal their relationship with food, their body, and themselves. But mainly, I help women come home to themselves.
I always love that statement of coming home, because coming home to yourself is really what we should all be doing. Whatever we're doing, I should be coming home to ourselves. So I love that. How are you today, Helen?
I'm good. I have to say, I did 4.5 hours in Frankfurt on Monday, and yesterday adrenaline was still the thing pushing me through. Today I could really do with a nap, but apart from that, all good.
Let's not talk about naps, because I think the next time I'll be able to have a nap is sometime next week. Like I
was thinking more like 2030.
Yeah.
I'll be nap in 2030. It'll all be fine then.
Yeah, I'm on a huge deficit right now, like massive deficit of sleep. So yeah. Okay, so welcome. So who's missing? So we've still got EJ, who is on, I'm going to say sabbatical. She's busy magistrating and everything else. And Rochelle is currently in Birmingham on a mastermind day and stuff that Naomi will know very well about and stuff. So we've all done, you and I have done the Birmingham stuff at different times. Yes, so we know what that's like. So it's the three of us today, but I'm really excited about today's topic. Now, the ladies haven't watched this, but if you watched the Victoria Beckham series, it was a mini series on Netflix. Give us a hello, let us know, because that's what I really want to delve into. So for the benefit of the ladies, I've always been a Spice Girl fan. Was anybody else a Spice Girl? Yeah, I was a Spice Girl. I did it and stuff. Like I was a Spice Girls fan. And so we all know that Victoria's called Sposh Spice. She's known for not smiling and everything else and stuff, and she's married to Beckham and everything else. Anyway, this was about her business, which I thought was really intriguing, because she has this brand, Victoria Beckham, and a lot of women move towards her brand. On this occasion, though, she talks about how she was bullied for her weight, Naomi, how she was weighed about 10 days after giving birth to her first child, how she lost confidence. And there are videos showing her when she was a Spice Girl, before she was a Spice Girl, always laughing. And she said, what stopped me from laughing was because I got bullied so much that I was so conscious of my weight that I thought if I smiled, it would make me look chubbier, it would make me look more awful. And she just felt so intimidated that she stopped smiling. So she ended up having body dysmorphia. She used to lie about her weight. She used to lie about what she was eating. She said she lied so much that she almost believed it herself, because she just didn't know how to manage her body. So, but every time she shed some pounds, she'd get criticized. So there's that bit. But also she talks about her business and how she felt like she had to prove herself, and she got mocked in her business aspect for not singing well. So as a result, she wouldn't know much about business. And also how she got mocked to the point where even the top people in the business didn't believe her. But she had this incredible passion for fashion that she'd shown very early on in her Spice Girls days. And she would have very small and quiet show times to show the designs that she'd done before she got taken seriously. And then finally, the last bit around the whole leadership bit was how she had to keep going because she had people to pay, how she borrowed money from her husband to start her business, but also how she'd thrown all that money down the drain because she was working with a lot of yes people. So people who were too scared to tell her no. And they were millions of pounds in debt. And David came on and said, at that point, I was like, I can't support you anymore. Like, I can't keep on giving you this money to sustain your business. And it then talked about her then looking for investors and the synchronicity, the really cool bit that really got me to tears, which I'm just a softie, but it talked about how the guy who was going to invest looked at her business, looked at the spreadsheet and went, no, we're not going to invest. He was like, we're not going to do it. We can't invest. Until that evening, the guy walked out with his wife for dinner. She looked stunning. And when he asked her what she was wearing, she said, oh, it's a Victoria Beckham dress. And that's what gave him the confidence to invest. So I thought there's so much to unpack from that brief summary that I've given you, just from the way we look. Naomi, you're so passionate about women's health and how they look and their mindset and their happiness and everything else. But also, Helen, from a leadership perspective, you know, you've got so much knowledge and experience in the leadership world and what have you, that I thought it would just be great for us just to talk about this, because when we see someone showing up for themselves, especially a woman, we don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. Who wants to start?
So much to jump in on that. I mean, the first thing, I was laughing when you were talking it through about how she was expected to be bad at business because she couldn't sing. And it's like, at what point are we not allowed to carry on being learners as adults?
Yeah.
Business, I mean, let's be honest, I've been in big business for 30 years and there's still big bits of it that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that is always going to be the case. And that's something that I love about business, because there's always something additional to learn. But the reality is there's also this expectation that you come in as this perfectly packaged human being out of a higher education system that's not fit for purpose for business, but you know everything. Or you come out of a pop group with a huge passion for fashion, in this case, and you should know everything. There were moments where I go, come on, guys, let's just be real that we're human.
Yeah, I think it's that part where they just don't want people to be successful. Naomi, what do you think?
Well, as we already said, Helen and I, neither of us have watched the documentary. However, I saw the previous one that was on the Beckhams, wasn't it? And I'm going to be honest and say that in itself was a huge eye-opener, seeing how much David Beckham was scrutinized and the damage it caused to him. And I don't think this is gender specific. However, we're obviously talking about Victoria Beckham today. And I know obviously from my own background with disordered eating, with all the women that I've worked with, I mean, the first phrase that came to my mind was, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
That
you're damned if you're, you know, if you lose weight, you're damned if you gain weight.
Yeah.
And, you know, you said there about, I'm about how women look. I'm actually about how women feel, because I don't care what dress size a woman is when she comes to me, when she leaves me. All I care about is that she feels at home in herself. And how tragic that Victoria Beckham has spent. And I remember that episode on Chris Evans' TFI Friday, because I was a massive TFI Friday fan back in the day. And I remember that episode where he got her on the scales. And I'm just trying to think how many years ago that was and how old I would have been. But I was already, you know, I had disordered eating from the age of 9. So I remember seeing that and just feeling like so uncomfortable that she was put on scales. But I guess there was also a part of me that saw her as this incredibly slim, incredibly attractive, incredibly successful pop star. and had that kind of looking up to her in that way.
Yeah.
And obviously not seeing the discomfort in her when she did it. You know, she laughed it off. She went along with it. She did everything. And I just think there are so many lessons. And of course, she's a mother, and it doesn't matter what, you know, whatever gender her children are, they have witnessed and seen, and you cannot hide publicity from children nowadays with social media, with everything else. They will have seen all of that over the years, and what damage that has then had, or imprint and unconscious patterning and thought process, because most of what I do with women is unprogramming and unlearning all the behaviors and programming from childhood and adolescence. I just think, and I will watch the Victoria. I don't watch very much television, but I will watch it because I'm curious to know, like, the behind the scenes, because all I've seen is, you know, the amount of scrutiny she's had over the years. But I have to say, I admire her greatly. I think, you know, she probably could have, with the money that they have, she probably could have retired and just, you know, lived a life of doing whatever. But she just gets back up again, doesn't she? She's a great like, she's an inspiration for resilience, regardless of anything else.
I knew this would rattle your cages, you see. I knew this would rattle your cages. That's why I wanted us to talk about it completely. Now, to your point about her laughing, she actually talks about that. She goes, and I laughed. She goes, because what else do you do? Like, you get asked to get weighed and you laugh. She also got accused of spending all her husband's money. She got accused of, and there's newspaper printouts. I know that after that showing of her series, there were a couple of journalists that have reached out and apologized for what they wrote all those years ago, because they didn't realize the damage that they had done. So my question to you, Helen, is from a leadership perspective. She talks about losing a lot of money and not knowing where to go, like millions of pounds in the red is exactly how she describes it. As a leader. Oh, and also I bumped into somebody yesterday who used to work for her, and he said we didn't know how much in debt she was. From a leadership perspective, at what point do you then go, help, we're in trouble? Or do you just keep it away from the staff so that they can carry on doing the work and hopefully turn the situation around?
I'll answer that question, Victoria, second, if I may. But the first bit is, at what point is it okay for us to stop thinking about how we make people feel?
Right.
I'm sorry, my grandfather was a journalist. He was an incredibly famous journalist, sort of off the charts, household name journalist. At no point, and I remember he died when he was 111 years ago now, and he was furious by what journalism had become, because he said at no point was our job to make people feel bad about themselves. And that's the bit where I'm kind of going, at what point as humans is it okay for us to make people feel bad about who they are? Yes, we can have conversations about they didn't necessarily do this right, and they can do this better. But about who they are, no, sorry. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do with Love Leadership. But coming on to your point, for me, when it gets to business, there has to be a degree of transparency in order for there to be solutions found. So in large businesses, it's very tempting, if you've got a poor performing department, division, team, to sort of just go, well, we'll just either cauterize it, and that's always an option, and we see that quite a lot, and sometimes that is the right option to do. The market's gone, for example, or something's happened that means that actually this is no longer a feasible option. But there's also a time when the people who got you into that situation or are working so closely to the problem are usually the ones that have the best ideas of how to get out of it. So where I've turned businesses around in the past, and I have, it's one of the reasons I got called into a lot of the promotions I got given, because I turned problem teams into performing teams, was we'd just sit down and go, okay, this is the problem. Let's be brutally honest about where we are, and we can then plan to where we're going to get to. So for me, every single time that we've turned a business around, it's because of transparency and because we've had a willingness to listen to ideas at all levels of the organizations. And I think businesses sometimes make decisions too early to hide nasty truths.
Yeah.
You were also saying that people weren't saying no to her. So she didn't necessarily know why they were losing millions, because no one was telling her warts and all what was happening as well. And so it's a combination of, stuff doesn't go up and stuff doesn't come down. And actually the reality is, when you have transparency both ways, solutions can be found really easily.
Yeah. I mean, from an intuitive leadership perspective as well, I mean, going into multi-billion-pound organizations and transforming the teams, like you say, it is all about transparency. It's almost like having that energy flow between all the different departments, and if it's blocked, then something has to give. And what was really interesting was that it was quite funny. She was spending £70,000 a year on plants, but she didn't know she was. So like people were going, well, she deserves the best. So she was having all these plants and enjoying the plants, of course, and not thinking how much it was costing. And this guy came in, her new partner came in and went, all this has to go. And she's like, I don't want these. I don't need these things. She goes, they were there. It was nice. She goes, but I'll just get on with it. She goes, I'll just get on with it. Something else that came up as well, and this is around the purpose side, which is just my huge passion about helping people find a purpose, is when the business wasn't working, she was asked to just be herself. That was the advice she was given. And that's something that we can all take from this. And I'm sure we preach in our own spaces about just be you. It doesn't pay to be someone else. It doesn't pay to copy from someone else. And she wasn't copying, but it was almost like, just be you, just be you and let people get to know you. So again, that comes through communities. And I know for sure that you both do that in your own spaces and stuff. Like, you really create really powerful communities. And what really brought people towards her was when she started playing around with her makeup. And she said, I've always loved makeup. So I just sat on the floor and did my makeup and spoke to the screen. And that's what got her following. So when she then launched her beauty line, it was so catastrophic that it then opened the space for her designs that were always good. Her designs, nobody ever said her designs weren't good. It was just that financially she wasn't aware. So my question to you is, Naomi, at what point in your life have you felt like, I'm not being yourself? And what was the transformation when you started becoming yourself?
Love that question. Can I just say something about why I was laughing so much about the plants? Because I'm the woman that made Lego flowers because I cannot keep a plant alive.
I thought you were going to show me your 70 grand. I thought you were going to show me your 70 grand.
I mean, I think my Lego flowers cost me $27.99. They're there for life. I mean, mind you, 70 grand when you're a multi, I mean, I don't even know what their net wealth or net worth is. But 70 grand, it's kind of nothing, isn't it? But anyway, I laughed because I'd probably do that too if I had that kind of money. I love plants. They don't survive in my care. So I have Lego. But also that, I guess, do you know what? That actually ties in quite nicely. Because I don't believe I was myself until a couple of years ago, and I'm now 50. And I battled for most of my life feeling like a square peg in a round hole. I, from a childhood didn't fit into the school. And, Helen, you just said it there, the whole, and I obviously went to school, left school 35 years ago. School did not fit me. Whilst I went to an incredibly good school, I didn't fit the academic model. I didn't fit the kind of sports model. I didn't fit the musician model. I didn't fit any of it. So I was kind of like, who am I? I just didn't know. Then, I lost my mum at a young age. So I didn't know who I was. And that, when you lose a parent in your teenage years or a child or adolescence, it's a massive impact on your self-worth, but also on who am I? My kind of role model, my female model was gone. I battled in my 20s and my 30s with disordered eating, with emotional eating, with alcohol abuse, with not feeling worthy, with throwing myself into my corporate career because I needed the validation of I am a worthy and good human being, and probably female too. I need to, because I didn't get married, didn't have children. So what, who was I in this world? I was a career woman. Walked out of my career 9 years ago at 41, completely and utterly lost, not realizing that I was also in perimenopause. So I feel like I went from childhood to chaotic 20s and 30s. And really my 40s were what I call my unbecoming decade. So I unlearn all the behaviors, habits, conditioning from childhood, teenage, 20s, 30s. And honestly, I've only just realized who I am this last few years. So yeah, now I am me. There is no different versions. There is no I'm this outside of my business, I'm this inside. I'm just me. And and it's such a refreshing and beautiful place to get to.
You can see it in your face as well as you're saying it. It's beautiful.
It's peaceful.
Yeah, I think that's what, peace.
It definitely takes less mental energy.
100%.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think I know who I am, but I still very much feel as though I am becoming, there is a lot more to do as well. And I think that's also, you mentioned the perimenopause, Victoria's sort of our age.
Yeah.
And she's going to be going, she would have gone through, but I think there is this bit where you just in your 40s go, screw it, I just don't care anymore because I do not have the bandwidth. So, sort of, I don't care what you think, and I am going to rock up in my Primark cardigan because I'm freezing cold or I'm boiling hot or, sort of whatever it is. You just drop a lot of that. And I think we're starting to see her reach a point where she is just who she is without any of those expectations.
Yeah, I think sorry. I was just going to say, and actually that there is a biological reason behind that. And it is that when our estrogen levels start to decline, they call it the filter that we have all, managed to people please. And we've managed to put up with the SH1T and all those different things. The declining estrogen levels are what actually kind of that mask and that filter start to just dissipate. And like you say, we kind of go, do you know what? I'm done with the pretending or the this or that. So I tell you what would be really fascinating, because I think Victoria Beckham, is she 51? She's a year older than me.
Yeah, 51.
It'll be really interesting to see this decade for her, if she really does become unapologetically, I've got goosebumps actually as I said that, if she really does become unapologetically herself. I guess the fact that she's done this documentary now, and obviously I've not seen it, but I guess she's probably, and we know that documentaries and things, we only see social media, we only see 1% of what's really going on. There'll have been so much behind the scenes, but it will be interesting to see what this decade and menopause maybe kind of brings out in her and allows her to unbecome and become.
Because you see the women like Helen Mirren, Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, Meryl Streep, you just see them and you kind of go, actually, they didn't even start until they were in their 50s.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them have like, it's way, way later than that, 60s and even 70s, but it's like, oh yeah, it's a good look.
Yeah, I think it's that whole thing of when I look at Victoria, and she just happens to be on my feed quite a lot. So when she's filming David, she's got this cheeky side to her, and it's only just recently come out where she'll be filming something, and it comes up on YouTube or what have you, on Instagram, where she's filming him, and he could be like up a ladder fixing something, or it could be cooking, and she's got these really cheeky innuendos, and she'll do a post, and she knows that a lot of people fancy her husband. Before, she used to be really defensive about it, and she'd pull women up if they did. Now she'll post and she goes, "You're welcome." So I think even before she even recorded this series, I think she'd already reached that point of being unapologetic within herself, so that yes, we're seeing the recording now, but actually for her to even put that out there, is a place where you're at peace with yourself, and you go, because nobody's forcing her to do it, right? It's like it's her license to put out stuff about herself and her children and everything else, and it was just really, really fascinating. If I got asked if I know myself, if I'm myself, or that moment, I feel like I go through different reiterations. I feel like I'm an onion just peeling down the layers of who I really am. And whilst I stand and I command a room and everything else and stuff, there are points of me, there are certain goals that I have in my life where I go, is there more to you than meets the eye that you haven't yet shown up for, which is why those results haven't arrived. So I'm very aware of that. So whilst I know who I am and I stand with absolute conviction, a bit like what you ladies have said, I feel like there's a whole element of me that still hasn't shown up, and she's gradually showing up. And it's not because she's resisting anything. I think it's more time will unfold it. You know what I mean? It's that joy. There's a lady on TikTok who one day just went on a rant, and she talked about how she doesn't care. She created a We Do Not Care club. And it was all about, it's fascinating story. And I remember watching the first one, and it was, I don't care that, I'm wearing pajamas and I've just gone to the shop and stuff like, and it's all because she was suffering from perimenopause and stuff. She's going, I just don't care. In less than, I would say, 6 months, within a month, she scaled to over 1 million followers of women who resonated with not caring about the perimenopause. She's gone viral, she's gone international, she's gone everything. And it just makes me realize how women of a certain age have just had enough. And they're going, do you know what? We're not going to join in with what society wants of us. We're going to be ourselves and create our own narrative.
Oh, I am on that page.
Yeah. And I am, but I also have the follow-up question, which is, what does that mean for the generations behind us? How do we mean actually we can get 20-year-old, 30-year-old women to go, actually, I don't care either, and I can be me, and all of those things you were talking about, Naomi, that sort of like, I had to fit in, I had to prove myself. Yeah, tick, 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 when you were talking. It was just like, yeah, absolutely. And I wish, I wouldn't necessarily change my life, but I wish I sort of, and we all say it, we knew what we know back then, because how would have we been different? And I think it is, we can't just turn around to the women and go, oh, well, it's all right, guys, when biology starts kicking in for you, because there needs to be a fundamental shift as well in the societal expectations. And, sort of the demand, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, I think, about having to have it all and all of those sort of things. So, we can't just rely on the fact that estrogen's making us go, yeah, well, don't care anymore. for that to be an okay message for the 20 and 30-year-old women who are coming up and the teenagers as well. So I have no idea how to solve that problem, but it is an interesting one where, yes, we can relish where we are now, but how do we make that okay for people coming up as well?
It's interesting you say that, because I'm actually already seeing it in that generation. So I connect with women of all ages, and I have, some women that when I say much younger than me, sort of in their 20s and their 30s, connecting with me on social media. I meet them sometimes at events. I met a young woman who was only 24, 25, a couple of weekends ago at an event. Oh my gosh, like our thought process was parallel, and I was like, she's like 24, 25. She's already got this figured out. She's already like having relationship coaches for her relationship that she's in right now. And I'm like, my God, that's what I'm thinking about with the next relationship.
Yeah.
I've done all the mistakes. I've repeated the mistakes for decades. Now and the amount, and I've got a business mentor right now that's 26, and I see like how much more advanced some of them are, because I think, I guess, social media and AI and all this, whilst it has lots of negative connotations and impacts, I also think it brings so much more education, not always the right education, but maybe the right word there is awareness rather than education. But I'm already seeing it, not across the board, but I am definitely seeing the next generation come through. And I'm trying to think, what are they? Are they millennials? Are they
the Gen X?
I don't know. Am I Gen X? Am I Gen Z? I can never remember what I am. I mean, it depends what day of the week it is.
Yeah, that bit.
I can remember what day of the week it is.
Yeah. That's menopause.
Because I'm not seeing it so much. I'm still seeing a lot of that pressure that women are putting themselves in through that corporate environment, and that sort of that struggle to be the mums they're expected to be, and the career women they're expected to be, and the wives they're expected to be, and. So it's good that you're starting to see some people, because I think that awareness is I think a job that we all need to do as well.
Yeah. So here's my take on it. Yes, I believe that kids are a lot more aware than we were, because they're open to a lot of information. But also, I almost see the ignorance as a rite of passage, because it's almost like, they may know, they may try and adjust it, but they don't have the experience of it. And I believe there's a guy who wrote a book, Reverend T.D. Jakes. He wrote a book about crushing it, and he says, you need to crush an orange to taste the juice, and sometimes you just need to go through certain experiences. It doesn't make the experiences right, but you have to go through that experience for a woman to know what, and anybody, not just a woman, but to know what good looks like. You need to know what bad looks like, right? You need to, for you to be able to set the standards. So I have a sister who's in her early 40s. And when I tell her about the perimenopause, she looks at me as if I've fallen from the sky. And she just goes, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm like, oh, it's not a choice. And she goes, no. She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, you're probably already going through it. She goes, not interested. And it's that whole thing where she honestly believes that if she says, nope, not interested, it's not going to happen. And I'm like, I promise you, when it hits, you're going to think that you've lost your complete mind. And yeah, she's not interested. And this is a woman only about 11 years younger than we are, right? So imagine the younger kids, like then it's never going to hit. It's never going to hit, because with perimenopause and with aging, you in most cases, or in some cases, you gain to love the body for the work it's done, not just for how it looks. And that sometimes includes childbirth, sometimes that includes illnesses, sometimes that includes mental, physical illnesses. It's a number of things. And even this morning I woke up and stuff, and I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. And and I was like, I just want to thank you for still holding the space for you to keep moving and doing whatever you have to do, and to navigating what I am going through and some of the pain that I'm going through and everything else and stuff. It's like, and the fact that I'm working on myself and working and having all these different bits of help, and realizing that it's not a perfect body, but it's getting me to everywhere that I want to go, including just being on this call and having this conversation and everything else. As a child, you're not thinking that. As a child, you think that everything has to do with whether you can see your belly button, or whether you can see your feet, or whether your boobs are pert and everything else and stuff. It's like, it's a whole different narrative. And again, it also goes down to what we're being fed as well. You know, it's like when you get fed that slim is pretty and slim is beautiful. But I know a lot of unhappy slim women. I know about, and equally, I also know a lot of unhappy bigger women and stuff. So it's, you know, and this is where Naomi's got it right. It's like, it's not about the body size, it's about what's there. Like what drives this. And in most cases, it just so happens that when you rectify this, then this looks better, this looks healthier. And in most cases, healthier does look smaller and everything else and stuff. So it's a byproduct of those emotions, of clearer emotions, rather than striving to be that without sorting everything else out. Which is why I could go into those injections and have a long conversation about those as well. But that's not what we're talking about today.
That's for another week.
That's for well, I've already got two. That's two topics and stuff, because I've already got a couple of topics to put out there for you ladies. So yeah. Anybody else want to wrap up and final words on this? Because we could talk about this all day.
I think what you just said, like, I think even just to say what you said there about how the experiences that we go through, whilst they're not all great, I look back now and I've been asked this question a lot, like, what's your biggest regret in life? And I had lots and lots and lots earlier on. And now at 50, I can honestly say I don't have one. Every relationship that ended taught me something. My mum's death, whilst it was absolutely traumatic and life-changing, and, you know, spent 30 years really not knowing how to heal from it, I am a different person. I know that I would not be this person today. And I know that I would not have had the career path I had. I wouldn't have walked out of my career. I wouldn't have started my own business. I wouldn't be doing what I do now. And I think, like you say, those experiences, a bit like with Victoria Beckham, let's bring it full circle round. Would she be the businesswoman, the mother, the wife, the friend? I'm sure she is an incredible friend, an incredible daughter, an incredible mother, all those things. Would she be all those things if she hadn't have had all those experiences in business, in, you know, in what the media said about her, in all those different things? I don't suppose she would.
100%. Helen?
I agree. But there's also a bit of me that comes back and sort of says, we just need to stop and be kind.
Yes.
You know, if at any point a member of the media had gone, actually, do I need to write this story that is going to trash a young mother? And just spent a second considering it, you know, that could have had a significant impact on how she was then. So yes, we all need to go through learnings in life. The reality is we learn best when we mess up. But there's also a piece where we've got to start thinking about our impact on others around us, not just our intent sometimes. And that for me, again, is one of those learnings. It's one of the reasons I don't watch the news, read media, or do any of that, because it goes against everything that I am trying to instill in the people I work with and the boys I'm raising. So yeah, how can we be more kind and thoughtful and not put ourselves into that people-pleasing role at the same time, because that's really important, but actually balance that thinking of self and thinking of our impact on others.
Love that.
Well, I think that's a really perfect way to end this, which is be kind. Whatever you take away from watching the Victoria Beckham thing. It's about being kind to each other, and not just being kind outwardly, but being kind inwardly to yourself, being kind when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a call with somebody today, and this is not making me a martyr, because I'm sure I have shown my own unkindness somewhere else. We're all human. But they said to me, "Thank you so much for supporting me when I really needed you." And I was like, I didn't even think about that. To me, it was, you needed help and I showed up. But it's also about considering, as Helen said, how you're feeling. Considering how someone's going to feel, how your actions can affect other people. It's not just about you. I think there's a lot of it, I don't care. What's the word? I don't care behavior. There's a narrative going on at the moment. When I don't care, I'm going to post what I want. I'm going to say what I want. But actually, you know, words hurt. You know, actions, those actions and those words, they'll stick with people for a long time. This is a woman who's talking about what happened to her 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still having an impact on her. So something for us to take away.
Fantastic.
Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Until next week. We'll see you then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.